Hey guys, so last week I did a video on my RSD and I found it quite hard to explain because I think as an adult it's very complex, very personal, blah blah blah. It was an example from yesterday of something that with Jade, which these happen like daily, and it's been ever since. I mean, like when he was non-verbal, maybe he was like 18 months old. Could have even started before. No, yeah, probably about 18 months because he could stand. If I came through the door from work, obviously he didn't understand what I was saying to him, but I'd be like, I need to run to the toilet or I need to put the shopping down. If I didn't pick him up the second, like literally the second I walked through the door from work, he would scream the house down for the next hour. And as well, if so, I would have to tell my mum, because my mum, when I was working back then, my mum would have them. I had to tell her to go. She had to go, like instantly, because he'd get her shoes. He wanted her to go. If she stayed, everything's like a transition thing back then. So if she stayed, then he'd be like, "Oh, okay, she's staying." Obviously, he didn't talk, but he'd be thinking, "Oh, okay, she's staying." And then half an hour later, when she'd been like for a chat, if she tried to go, then all this, another screaming meltdown. Anyway, so yesterday I was cutting Rob's hair, and Jaden walked into the room and just said, "Can I have a cuddle?" And I said, "Just a minute, just literally clippers in hand. It'll be like 5 minutes, and then of course you can have a cuddle." And it was in like the smallest bedrooms, and I was like, "Could you just move out the way a little bit?" And he sort of huffed walked out the room, didn't really think too much more of it. And then maybe like half an hour later, he starts with, "Well, you told me you don't love me anymore." So, what? You said Jaden, go away forever. I hate you. I don't. And it's not just him exaggerating it. It's literally like that's what he believes. That from what I've said, that's what he's got. So it's the first time I've ever kind of tried to talk to him about it. And I worded it completely wrong because I said, I think it's not necessarily the way I worded it, but the way he interpreted it. I think I said, "Your brain tells you things are worse than they are," which obviously that's a very complex thing anyway. And he said, "Mummy, I'm sorry that I make everything worse." And I was like, oh. I said, "No, that's not what I meant at all. I just meant like things that I say I would never in a million years say, the things that you think that I'm saying." I said, just move out the way for 5 seconds. I'll give you a cuddle in a minute. But in your brain, that was a complete rejection, a complete, no, Mummy doesn't love me, Mummy doesn't want me. But I don't know how to get him to kind of understand that, because now he just thinks that I think he makes everything worse, which wasn't what I meant in the slightest. I don't know whether I worded it slightly wrong or whether he just interpreted the way that I worded it wrong, but that's a prime example. And these kind of things happen like on a daily basis, and if I ever have to tell him off, that's a huge thing as well. Any kind of like criticism, even like when he was in reception, there were obviously times, I mean, he never got told off, but if there were little things that his teacher had to talk to him about to kind of, explain that why he couldn't do things and that kind of thing. The teacher, the reception teacher understood Jade's needs so well that he would let me know. So he would kind of give me a heads up, send me a message on Dojo, or write it in his homeschool diary to kind of say, "By the way, I've had to say something to Jade," because otherwise when he comes home, we had it a couple of weeks ago where he came home in an absolute state because the teacher had shouted at him. I don't know why the teacher hates me. I don't know what I've done wrong. And of course I go in all guns blazing. It's the school go, "What has gone on? Why is he in such a state? Why didn't you tell me?" And then it turned out to be, also the school say, you're never completely sure, but the school said it was because he put the blue paintbrush in the yellow paint. I don't know whether that's right, but it was enough for him to be completely hysterical. And obviously it was hard for me to comfort him because I didn't know exactly what had gone on. And I could kind of say, "No, the teacher wasn't angry at you," because I didn't actually know. But yeah, that was what they came back with in the end, was that it was just over a paintbrush in the wrong colour paint. But he was adamant that she'd actually been shouting at him, and Ella said yes, she shouted at him. So I'm like, well, I'm hoping that you wouldn't shout at a child over something so trivial. But yeah, things like that to Jaden are huge compared to what they are to other children. And as well, I think it was that same weekend, he's had quite a few merit certificates recently for like his writing effort and things like that, and he ripped 2 of them up because he said, "I don't deserve them," because he thought that he'd done something wrong at school. So he ripped his, they weren't in any way connected, they were from like a couple of weeks before, but he'd got them off the fridge and ripped them into shreds because he didn't think that he was good enough to get his merit certificate. So RSD to Jaden is a huge thing, and then it comes into when he talks about wanting to die, not deserving to be a child. Where he says, like, I don't deserve to be a boy, I should be an object. I don't know where that comes from. Obviously, it's heartbreaking that he doesn't think he's good enough to be a boy. I don't know where that ever comes from, because obviously we try to do as much as we can to build his confidence and work on that. But yeah, RSD, I don't think it's like a standalone diagnosis in the UK. As far as I know, it's known under like an ADHD umbrella, but it's not, as far as I gather, a kind of like standalone thing. I've got a call with a different paediatrician next week. If it was his own paediatrician, I'd probably talk to her about it, but I don't know, it's a random different paediatrician. There's so many other things to get. I'd obviously mention the kind of the issues regarding like talk of death and that kind of thing, but yeah, I don't know whether we'll get a chance to kind of talk about the actual RSD. Yeah, it's a big thing for both of us, but I think it's easier to explain from a child's point of view almost, because it's not quite so, relationships and things like that aren't quite so complex, are they, at that age? It is just quite, everything's very black and white to him, and you either love him or you hate him. There's no kind of like grey.